Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're diving into an incredibly fascinating, albeit often overlooked, aspect of one of history's most iconic figures, Cleopatra VII. We know her, the last active ruler of the Ptolemaic Kingdom of Egypt, the woman who famously had affairs with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, and the queen who navigated the treacherous waters of ancient politics with unmatched intelligence and charm. But what if I told you there was another, lesser-known part of her reign that involved not just diplomacy and warfare, but also cats? Yes, you heard me right. Cleopatra's connection to cats and their role in her reign over Egypt. Ancient Egypt and cats share an inseparable bond, and Cleopatra's court was no exception. Cats weren't just beloved pets in her time, they were revered, almost sacred animals with deep spiritual, cultural, and royal significance. In this video, we're going to explore the intriguing role of cats in Cleopatra's life and rule, examining their symbolism, their influence in the royal court, and even the possible political and spiritual weight they carried within her empire. So sit back, relax, and let's take a journey into the heart of ancient Egypt and uncover the curious case of Cleopatra's cats. The spiritual significance of cats in ancient Egypt. Before we even get into Cleopatra's reign, it's important to understand the deep spiritual significance that cats held in ancient Egyptian culture. Cats were regarded as protectors, symbols of fertility, and guardians against evil. The Egyptians had a rich pantheon of gods and goddesses, many of whom were associated with animals, and the cat was no exception. The most prominent feline deity was Bastet, the goddess of home, fertility, and childbirth, but also the protector of the home and the goddess of war. Bastet was often depicted as a lioness or as a woman with the head of a lioness or domestic cat. As a lioness, she was a fierce protector. As a domestic cat, she symbolized grace, elegance, and nurturing. Her dual nature made her one of the most revered deities in ancient Egypt. Bastet's connection to Cleopatra was not just symbolic, she represented power and protection, aspects that would have been crucial for a ruler like Cleopatra. Cats were also considered embodiments of mystery, independence, and power. The Egyptians believed that the soul of a cat could protect its owner from evil spirits, and thus, cats were often mummified and buried with their owners to ensure a smooth passage to the afterlife. Some scholars even argue that Cleopatra's own connection to cats was as much about the symbolism of power as it was about her personal affinity for these regal animals. Cleopatra's court and the role of cats. Now, let's bring this back to Cleopatra's court and the question of how cats fit into her reign. We can start by acknowledging that Cleopatra was no ordinary monarch. Her reign was marked by political turmoil, wars, and the shifting tides of power. She was the last ruler of an independent Egypt before it was subsumed into the Roman Empire, and she wielded political savvy, charm, and intelligence to navigate the dangerous world of Roman politics. But in this landscape of strategy, alliances, and warfare, cats were an integral part of the royal court's identity. At her court, cats were not just pets. They were symbols of royal authority and divine favor. In fact, it's likely that Cleopatra used cats in a similar way to how she used other symbols of her sovereignty, emphasizing her connection to the divine and her ability to protect her kingdom. The presence of cats in the royal court would have been a subtle yet powerful signal of her association with Bastet, as well as her role as a protector of Egypt. The royal household of Cleopatra would have had access to the finest luxuries, and the animals that lived within the palace would have been treated with the utmost respect. Cats, as sacred creatures, would have been protected and well cared for. There are even accounts from ancient historians that described Cleopatra as a lover of animals, with many different kinds of exotic creatures in her palace. Cats, however, likely held a more special, elevated status than the others. In fact, some historical texts suggest that Cleopatra's relationship with animals wasn't just a personal preference but also a political strategy. By associating herself with the divine symbolism of Bastet, Cleopatra would have been subtly reinforcing her legitimacy as the ruler of Egypt. Cats, as physical manifestations of the goddess's power and protection, served to elevate her authority in the eyes of the Egyptian people. A queen who kept cats was a queen who kept the blessings of the gods. The famous Egyptian cat mummies. It's worth mentioning that cats weren't just a symbol of power in Cleopatra's court, they were also revered after death. Throughout ancient Egypt, cats were often mummified and buried with great care. These cat mummies were not just pets, they were considered sacred and often buried in elaborate tombs, sometimes alongside their owners. The Egyptians believed that mummification allowed the cat to continue serving its divine purpose in the afterlife, protecting its owners and ensuring their safety in the next world. In the context of Cleopatra's reign, it's entirely plausible that some of the royal cats were also mummified and buried with honor. After all, the royals of Egypt were often buried with an array of treasures, servants, and pets, all intended to accompany them into the afterlife. Whether Cleopatra herself had a personal collection of cat mummies or whether she kept live cats as part of her divine court remains a mystery, but it's certainly not beyond the realm of possibility. The reverence for cats was so profound that some ancient Egyptians even practiced cat sacrifice to honor the gods, and large-scale cat cemeteries have been discovered in Egypt, where thousands of cats were buried with rituals reserved for sacred animals. These practices would have been especially important to Cleopatra as she sought to solidify her role and maintain divine favor in a time of political unrest. Cats and Cleopatra's relationship with Rome. Cleopatra's relationship with Rome is one of the most well-documented aspects of her reign, and it's essential to consider how her affinity for cats might have influenced her interactions with Roman rulers like Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. We know that Cleopatra was a highly intelligent and politically astute leader who knew how to manipulate symbols and make powerful connections. Cats, associated with divine protection and power, would have been part of the image Cleopatra projected to the Romans. For example, when Cleopatra first met Julius Caesar, she arrived in Rome as a powerful ruler who understood the importance of symbols. She was known for her regal appearance, and it's possible that she would have brought her sacred cats along to further emphasize her connection to the divine. This would have been particularly significant for Caesar, who was steeped in Roman culture but also had an interest in Egyptian religion and mysticism. Roman emperors were often very careful about how they projected their own image, and Cleopatra's use of cats could have been a clever strategy to maintain an air of mystery and power, both in Egypt and in Rome. Similarly, Cleopatra's relationship with Mark Antony might have been influenced by the presence of her royal cats. Antony, like Caesar before him, was no stranger to Egypt's religious practices, and he may have viewed Cleopatra's use of cats as a sign of her divine right to rule. Cats were not just physical creatures, they were carriers of symbolic power. In a world where alliances were often built on prestige and the manipulation of symbols, Cleopatra's cats may have played a subtle but essential role in cementing her political relationships. Cleopatra's legacy in cats, a symbol of female power. As we reflect on Cleopatra's reign, it's clear that cats held a special place not only in her court but in the broader narrative of her legacy. Cats embodied the very traits Cleopatra sought to project: grace, strength, protection, and independence. In a time when women rulers were often seen as threats or anomalies, Cleopatra used every tool at her disposal to reinforce her authority. And one of those tools, undoubtedly, was the regal and mystical cat. Cleopatra's use of cats helped solidify her image as a powerful and divine ruler. They were more than just pets, they were symbols of the protection and favor of the gods. Through her association with these sacred creatures, Cleopatra was able to bolster her position as a queen who commanded both earthly and divine forces. In this way, the cats in her court were not just companions, but integral components of her larger strategy to maintain control over Egypt. The enduring fascination with Cleopatra's cats. As we close this exploration into the curious case of Cleopatra's cats, we are left with a deeper appreciation for the profound role these animals played in both her reign and in ancient Egyptian society as a whole. Cleopatra's affinity for cats is a testament to the powerful symbols she used to cement her status as a queen of divine power. Cats weren't just pets, they were sacred beings that carried with them the legacy of the gods. Cleopatra understood the value of symbols, the importance of projecting power, and the need to maintain the favor of the gods. Through her association with cats, she was able to weave these symbols into her personal identity and her reign, making her a ruler whose connection to both the earthly and divine realms was unquestioned. And so, while Cleopatra may be remembered for her political savvy, her romantic liaisons, and her dramatic life, we should also remember that the royal cats of Egypt played their part in her legacy, silent but powerful symbols of an ancient queen's enduring connection to the divine. Thank you so much for watching this deep dive into the curious case of Cleopatra's cats. If you found this exploration fascinating, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more videos on history's most intriguing figures and their lesser-known stories. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep wondering what else history has yet to reveal.